Let's talk to the former Ukrainian Prime Minister, Arsenій Yaценюk. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. Tell us then a little bit about this event in Switzerland. Is it correct that there will be no Russian representation at all?
Yeah, absolutely. There will be no Russians, but let me congratulate all of us to congratulate with the D-Day. I believe that the time will come when the D-Day will emerge in Ukraine. This could be a viable solution how to liberate Ukraine. So this was a joint fight against Nazis, and right now we have a joint fight against another Nazi who is sitting in Kremlin. It's Vladimir Putin. So he refused to participate. He didn't refuse, actually. He isn't invited to participate in this summit. And there is only one reason why he isn't invited. He's not ready to any kind of talks or negotiations. His ultimate goal is to take over Ukraine, and that's the reason why he believed that he will outlast both the Ukrainian nation and the Western world who steadfastly support Ukrainians.
Yeah, I think everybody listening will support the Ukrainian cause, and we obviously hear your passion. But I just wonder why does Bloomberg News believe that this event is an attempt to build the possibility, maybe, of proper peace negotiations with Russia relatively soon?
Frankly, I don't share the take that Bloomberg just posted. So there is no any intention on the Russian side to hold any talks with Ukraine. So Putin waged the war of attrition. So he wants to outlast, to outman, to outgun Ukraine, and it all depends on the unity of Ukraine and the Western allies. Look, the situation has changed dramatically in different directions. Let me remind you that we just received $61 billion of U.S. support. But due to the fact that this security package stalled in the U.S. House for more than 6 months, we lost around 800 square kilometers of Ukrainian land. But as of now, we managed to, first, to fend off Russians, and second, we got permission from our Western allies, mainly from the United States, to attack military targets on the Russian soil, which will help Ukrainians actually to fight Russians.
This is hugely significant, this development, isn't it? The idea that you can use Western weapons to strike Russia.
And including British weapons.
Yes.
Let me remind you that you guys were the first one who actually supplied, starting with the tanks and ending with the Storm Shadow missiles.
Right.
So we are very grateful to you.
Well, that's good. And as I say, I'm sure the overwhelming majority of people listening are emphatically on your side. But we are told this might be a game changer. How soon will we know whether or not it has indeed changed the course of the war in your favour?
Well, that's not an easy question, and there is no easy answer. So Russia is a huge belligerent state with a nuclear arsenal. But look, we managed to survive in the last 2 years and 3 months. So whether Ukraine can deoccupy its territory, yes. Whether Ukraine can prevail, yes. But we need to undertake an enormous effort. I want to be very clear, an enormous effort in order to restore the global order and in order to restore full Ukrainian territorial independence and sovereignty. Once again, I don't trust the Russians because I met Putin personally a number of times. So I know the beast. There is no any viable chance to have real talks. And there is no any chance that Putin will stick to his word or stick to the agreement.
Okay.
He violated hundreds of agreements.
But can we just acknowledge that your President Zelensky is not as popular as he used to be, and there is no possibility at the moment of any sort of election in Ukraine? When do you think there could or should be one?
Here is the thing. I am not a fan of President Zelensky, but I will defend him personally and his legacy. Could you imagine what's going to happen with every European leader if he is to be embroiled in this kind of war? So despite this fact, Zelensky still have a relatively high popularity rate. In terms of his legitimacy, due to the fact that Ukraine imposed a martial law, the presidential elections is postponed. But I am sure that Ukraine will prevail in this war, and the time will come when we will have presidential elections, and it's up to the Ukrainian people to decide who's going to be the next president.
Right.
But the thing is that first we need to preserve the country. This is an existential threat for the Ukrainian state. And not only for the Ukrainian state, and for you guys too.
Yes, I mean, I wonder how you feel about the fact that in countries like Britain, we tend to follow some stories like Ukraine very closely for a period of time, and then inevitably we start to lose interest and we are preoccupied by other things, notably in the UK right now, our general election, the one we're fortunate enough to be able to hold. How do you keep Ukraine in the headlines in countries like ours?
That's completely natural. The UK heads to the national elections. You had debate, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday or a day before yesterday.
Yeah, and Ukraine did not feature particularly. There was a brief reference, but really very little.
I closely monitored this, and you are more focused on your domestic issues, which is normal on the one hand. On the other hand, so you're going to participate in G7 summit. You're going to participate in the so-called peace talks or peace summit in Switzerland. So you are doing your job. In terms of the headlines, that's the normal way of development of any kind of news. So the world is embroiled with different issues. But the thing is that the key issue for Ukraine is to survive. The key issue for this and next leadership is to fight for democracy and to help Ukraine to prevail. And I strongly believe that this is going to last. This is going to last.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time this afternoon. That is the former Ukrainian Prime Minister Arsenій Yacenyuk.